So this is the self-development with tactics. Book.
So, this one's gonna be about comparing yourself to other people, which is definitely something that a lot of people know, and probably also just the majority of the people are doing, unfortunately, because it is something that's not that nice and not that good, and it's not that, yeah, it's valuable, I guess. You know, it's just, I don't want to say smart, but it is like just nonsensical. Like there's no reason why it should be good or why it could actually be good, some sort of. But as always, more after the intro. Because every day. Because I'm doing it every day. Because I like it. Because it's fun. Because it's amazing. And with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm really happy to present this part to you, or present this episode to you, because we're talking again about something that's incredibly important. And I'm also really thankful that I've been able to just think about it, that I've been able to find some really good articles on this particular topic, and also some really good thoughts on this particular topic as well, I guess. So as I said before, we're going to go through some articles and some thoughts on comparing yourself to other people, which, as I said, is definitely something that I would actually say the majority of the people are doing. Maybe even all the people to some degree, or have been doing it to some degree in their whole entire life. And I think like there are reasons for why we're doing that, but we're going to go through them afterwards. Now I think it's rather going to be about just comparing yourself to others in general, like how to prevent yourself from doing that and why you shouldn't be doing it and whatnot. And then we're going to go through why we're actually doing that, which is actually something that's pretty interesting. It really is, because these thoughts and or these ideas are pretty accurate. And I would actually say that it definitely is the case. But we're going to go through that afterwards. All the necessary links should be down in the description or in the show notes. But if there is something that you can't find, or if there's something that you are searching for but can't find, then please hit me up on social media. I'm probably going to respond in a few minutes or maybe even an hour. You know, it definitely depends on the day. And it definitely depends also on the time of the day. But as you can see on the left side of the screen, it is another Psychology Today article. And I really appreciate the psychologytoday.com, I guess, site. Let me actually check. Yeah, .com site. It really is a good one, since it's also available in various different languages and also countries. And it is just good. It really is good. And it shares just a lot of thoughts and a lot of articles on very, very, very important topics and very important just things as well, which is something that's truly valuable to a lot of people. Please go. No. There's just been some sort of an insect, and it's probably like in my PC right now, which is nothing too good. But as I said, we're going to go through a bunch of things, and I have seen that there are just a few numbers, maybe bullet points. And the first one is become aware of and avoid your triggers. We've been talking about triggers before in terms of habits, actually, and I'm looking forward to knowing what this is all about. So start noticing the situation that calls you to play the comparison game. Social media, as I have mentioned, is a big one for most of us. What about other circumstances? Is there a certain person who is constantly bragging about this or that, or asks you questions about your life that are designed to make you feel inferior? Are there certain activities, such as strolling through a high-end shopping mall or driving through an expensive neighborhood, that frequently make you feel disconnected with your life when you were feeling just fine about your life an hour before? And there's definitely going to be some triggers. And I think it's definitely going to be about other people. It's really going to be about that, since it is also one of the reasons why we're actually comparing ourselves to other people. It's because of other people. It is because they are other people, but I'm hopefully just gonna find the time to talk about it afterwards. So maybe just avoid those triggers. Maybe just avoid, especially if it is about places, if it is about just some certain circumstances, whether it actually be places, whether it be just a certain type of clothing that you're wearing, you know, maybe one that you actually don't really like to see on yourself, and this is making you just insecure, and all those things. Like maybe you're just avoiding those things. And or on the other hand, just because I am not really always a fan of avoiding things, or just basically quote unquote deleting them and just leaving them out of your life. It is, I guess, always like a little bit of a difficult thing, because you're just trying, at my point of view, to make it way too easy for yourself somehow, because you can also just deal with it. Of course, I mean, there is going to be some certain parts of the city that you're living in which is really fucking rich, or the people that are living there are really fucking rich. It's always going to be the case, I guess. There's always going to be some sort of a area where all the rich people are living, because maybe people like us do things like this. People like us, so people that are rich, do things like this, like living in this certain area. But if you're just driving through this, like, yeah, okay, they have more money than you're having, but that's fine and that's okay. Maybe if you're struggling with your income, and maybe if you're struggling with your money and just actually you're living paycheck to paycheck, then of course it's not going to be something that feels good. But on the other hand, I do have to say, like, well, yeah, you're going to progress. You're just probably in a different stage of life than they are. Even though, like, they're just maybe some 23-year-olds, 3-year-old billionaires out there, like, yeah, they have certain talents. Maybe they had a certain background as well, just their parents, maybe even not. Or maybe they just have just a certain amount of luck. Could also be the case. But I'm, as I said, not really a big fan of deleting things and just leaving them out or ignoring them and being like, well, let's just avoid these things because they make me feel bad. Of course, it is something that makes sense. It really is something that makes sense, especially also in other just areas of life and in other situations. But in this kind of situation, I feel like, well, maybe just understanding it, and maybe just trying to cope with it, maybe just trying to deal with it and feeling happy about the position you are in, and just not comparing yourself to the other people. The second thing is, remind yourself that other people's outsides can be compared to your insights, or can't be compared to your insights. This is such a helpful habit to cultivate. Unless you're really close to someone, you can't use their outward appearance to judge the reality of their life. Of course not, because there are going to be some people that look really fucking rich, but in reality, they really are not. They really are not rich. They just like to be clothed like a rich person. They just like to look like a rich person. Maybe it's going to be about faking till you make it. Who knows? But it is often the case that you don't really know what a person is feeling in the inside, even if you kind of assume something from the outside. Of course, most often, if somebody is unhappy, you can also see that. Not always. Really not always. Therefore, like, if someone is just really looking happy and you kind of feel like, I should also be happy. And I should also just be like this person. Like, I should also just have that looks. I should also, like, look that nice. And why am I not looking that nice? Just the whole comparison game, the whole just bullshit there. Nah. I mean, like, even if they sound happy from the outside, or if they just look happy from the outside, doesn't really mean that they are actually happy. Maybe there's something going on in their life, which is something that you can't see, that you don't see. And even though you kind of feel like that one person's is like just having the perfect life and everything is nice, because you kind of assume from the outside that everything is nice, doesn't mean that everything indeed is nice and okay and good in his or her life. There's probably going to be a lot of things to deal with, because we are all having our fights to cope with there. Like, we all have certain things to cope with. We all. It is really something we all have to do. Maybe unfortunately, maybe fortunately. The third one is, repeat whenever necessary. Money doesn't buy happiness and never will. It is well established that wealth, beyond having the basics in life, isn't associated with increased happiness or well-being. I used to perform flamenco dance at an exclusive resort frequented by celebrities, and the mega wealthy and a manager there once told me that she would never seen so many unhappy people in her life. Money and things provide temporary boosts of joy. Their inevitable inability to provide lasting sustenance, I don't know what it means actually. It's actually more disappointing than anything else. I truly have to say that there is going to be a lot of people that have a lot of money and are still happy. But on the other hand, there's also going to be a lot of people that have a lot of money but are not unhappy. The thing is, and it is maybe something that bothers me quite a bit, is that people often just point out that people that have a lot of money aren't happy. It's like something that you really often see. Maybe it's just because, and I kind of feel like that it's somehow just turns vice versa, basically. Like, back in the days, we've all been thinking like, okay, the super rich there, they must be so happy, everything must be so nice. But nowadays, I actually kind of feel like that it somehow changed. I think it somehow changed in terms of, okay, whomever is just really whoever is just really wealthy must be really unhappy, because just having money doesn't necessarily mean happiness. I kind of really feel like that media and probably also other people and just society as well have been able to really push that into society and culture and thoughts and whatnot. But money is good. Money is not bad. Money is good. And this is basically actually one of the kind of first lessons that you're going to learn if you're just trying to make money, by not thinking that money is bad, but money is actually something good. Money is something that can provide a lot of things to you, whether it be somehow happiness as well, but a lot of power, definitely, because you can do things, you can change things with money. Like, it really is easy. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately as well, it depends on how you're thinking about that. The fourth one, be grateful for the good in your life and resist any lies that shout it is not enough. If you commit yourself to being deeply grateful for what's good in your life and remind yourself of that daily, you'll be far less vulnerable to comparison and envy. If someone or something triggers that ugly feeling of negative comparison, stop and remind yourself on what's good in your life. Right now, there is not so much. Probably quite always when we are basically comparing ourselves to somebody else, it's going to be about something negative. It's going to be about something like, okay, we are not as good as the other person is in whatever, or at whatever. Or we are looking not as nice as the other person is looking. It's, I don't know, I do just think about it. And I kind of feel like, no, it's more about comparing yourself to somebody that is like seemingly better than you. And just seeing the negative and seeing the downsides in your life and what is not good in your life and what could be better in your life. But the fifth and last one is use comparison as motivation to improve what actually matters. This human propensity to want what others have is such a waste of time unless what you see and covet in another something of deep worth, such as their generosity or kindness. Who do you admire? What kinds of comparisons might actually be healthy for you? For example, there are women I know well who are extraordinarily kind and generous wives, mothers, and also friends. They truly make a difference in the world, and I want to be more and more like them. Who inspires you to live better in the way that matters most? Spend your precious time and thoughts on this instead. I think that's actually a pretty good one. And I've been thinking about, like, when I was in the train, I've been thinking about whether comparing yourself to other people or comparing yourself to whatever it might be is actually always something bad. But I kind of feel like that nothing is only bad and nothing is only good. Like, there's always going to be bad sides and or downsides, and there's always going to be upsides as well. Like, just whatever you're talking about, there's going to be upsides and there's going to be downsides. And I guess upsides of comparing yourself to other people might definitely be just seeing that you can do more good, or that there are people that are doing a lot of good, and then actually feeling a little bit guilty that you're not doing as much good as the other person is doing. Like, which is then going to be something that's motivating you, which is then going to be something that actually makes you do more and do better and try to do better and try to be just a better person. So sorta. But if you're feeling like, well, the person is better than I am, it's probably also going to be something motivating. It still depends on how or whom you're comparing yourself to. Because, I don't know, if it's a very close friend of yours, then it could actually happen that you're just going to be rivals. Just out of nowhere, basically. Just because you've been comparing yourself to this person, and maybe this person has also been comparing yourself to you. But now let's actually go through why we are comparing ourselves to other people. And I truly have to say, like, it does make sense to some degree. It really does. So we are comparing ourselves most often to people that are very similar to us, which is something that I read in an article. I might be linking it down in the description if I'm not forgetting about it. So we are most often comparing ourselves to people that are like really similar to us. And if you think about it, it is actually the case. You're never gonna actually compare yourself consciously, I would say, to somebody that is like completely different than you are. Because I guess you either feel like, okay, most often you're just gonna feel like, well, I'm better than the person, and I do not even have to compare myself to this particular person just because I know that I'm better in this particular field than this person. Maybe it's going to be about sports, and therefore you're not, as a very athletic person, as a very muscular person as well, you're probably not going to compare yourself to just really unathletic persons or people. Unless there's a reason, unless you've just lost in a competition, unless in a competition this particular person has been a really great rival of yours. Maybe, but this just again shows the similarity, and that this person is not just that different than you are. And if you really think about it, and I've been also thinking about it as well, and I actually have to say, like, yeah, I'm also, when I'm comparing myself to somebody, then I'm comparing myself to people that are maybe some sort of a threat to whatever I'm doing in terms of, are they going to be the best or am I going to be the best? I think also in that case, but this then shows, okay, we're quite similar and often the people are similar to us. On the other hand, the reason why we are actually comparing ourselves to other people is that most often we don't actually know where we are. So this is basically just a way to reevaluate and or just evaluate where we are on a just, let's say, on a scale from 0 to 10. If we are a 10, if we are a 0, if we are a 7. We just actually have to compare ourselves to other people so that we can actually say that, okay, compared to just Michael Jackson, am I wealthy or not? I'm really fucking poor. This would actually be my kind of thesis then, if I would be comparing myself to Michael Jackson. So it is a way to see where we are on scales in society, in other places, but there's a better way. There's a better way to compare yourself to something else, and it is basically comparing yourself to yourself, because it makes way much more sense, especially because if you're thinking about it, and if you're just comparing yourself to somebody else, then you're basically comparing yourself to a completely different human being. It is not about you then. It is not about just comparing yourself with yourself, but it's rather like comparing yourself to just something completely different. It is basically the exact same thing, and yes, we are doing that, just comparing different kind of animals, okay? Just comparing a dog with a cat. Okay, of course, yeah, the dog is probably going to be bigger, unless you kind of think about like very big cats, the wild cats like lions and tigers and whatnot. But in the end, it is just, yeah, we do just have to kind of figure out where we are, because especially in places we don't really know where we are. Like if it is something new that we tried out, if it is something new that we are just willing to try out, then we're definitely going to compare ourselves to other people just because we don't know where we are. But on the other hand, I've been thinking about it, and I've been thinking like, are animals actually as well comparing themselves to other animals? And I kind of feel like, yeah, they do. But I don't really have a certain just opinion or in terms of like a thesis why they're doing that. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe this is just a mechanism to just stay alive, maybe. Because if you're comparing yourself in terms of maybe your speed to the speed of a fucking cheetah, and you're not a fucking cheetah, then you're probably dead. Unless you're kind of a really huge animal. But then you're also going to compare your size with the size of the other animal. Like, okay, this fucking animal is way smaller than I am. So why would I even care? Or why would this animal even threaten my life? Or is this actually life threatening? Probably not, because this fucking animal is way smaller than I am. This fucking animal is way slower than I am. And this fucking animal is way weaker than I am. Probably one of these thoughts as well. But let's actually go through some core questions. I actually often kind of talk like, hello, I am this and I do want to do that. It's funny. About to delete Reddit on my phone until I get my shit together. Which is actually maybe a good way, but I'm always not quite sure about also these people that are just, I don't know, deleting social media. Of course, it's actually kind of a waste of time. If you're spending a lot of time on social media, if you're spending a lot of time on Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms, it's probably going to be a waste of time. Unless it is actually your job, unless it is actually something that provides you with information, with value, with all those things, then of course, it is not something too bad. You know, it does then make sense and isn't that of a bad thing, at least at my point of view. But if it's like really threatening your progress, then of course just delete it. And it is, I think, also something funny to think about, that such a lot of people are upset that social media is so addictive and whatnot, but you can just delete it. You can just not use it. Of course, maybe you're going to be an outsider. Maybe you're going to just get bullied in school just because you're not having it. Because it is like society. It is like just we all are having it. People like us do things like this probably as well. But yeah. The next question. How can I switch from mindless hobbies, TV, mobile games to enriching ones? The latter feels like more work when I want to relax. I do honestly have to say, is the podcast and everything that I'm doing work? I like to do it. You know, it still depends on the day, but especially I've seen when I'm actually having something to talk about, when I actually know what to talk about, it is way better. And it is way easier for me as well. And there's not really a lot of things that I just have to think about then. And it is not like, okay, I don't know what I should be talking about. And I don't also feel very bad about the episode just because I know that there is going to be some value. I know that I'm going to talk about something that's going to be very valuable to a lot of people. And this then just really makes me happy and really also lets me just look forward to the whole episode and recording it. It's still just, but I don't know. Like in the end, it is also something that I often feel like just doing. I think if I wouldn't be doing it, I would actually feel like just the need of putting something out, the need of talking about something, the need of sharing my thoughts on certain things, I guess. The thing is, I can understand that watching TV is nice, that playing games is fucking nice, because it is relaxing. There's nothing to think about and there's not a lot of pressure there. Unless you actually want to be good at playing games, then there is going to be some sort of pressure. But I can actually understand that. And I have stopped playing video games, like, I would actually say a year ago, but I'm not quite sure about that. And I also kind of feel like, well, maybe there has been one day, but I can't actually think of one. And I'm not playing games with my friends or at my friend's house or something. No, I think I haven't. So, but I would say, like, yeah, do it. Try it out. Just try to build something. Try to do something. Maybe try reading. Like, reading is, at my point of view, one of the things that, on one hand, is way too overrated. And on the other hand, I have to say, like, it is good. It really is. And it is really just, it makes sense. And there's a lot of things that you can't look up on the internet. Unfortunately, there are quite some things that you can only find in books, whether it be just like biographies or some other insights into various different things. Up to this point, at my point of view, there is not everything on the internet. There's probably also going to be some things on the internet that you can't find in books as well. I know it's probably like both ways, both directions, both sides. But yeah, just do it, I guess. Just try building something. Maybe actually, as I said, trying to read something instead of, even though it is also relaxing. But at my point of view, like, it's gonna be better than mindless watching TV. Like, just reading some bullshit commercials maybe even, and or something else. But I honestly also have to say that we all need some sort of escapism. We all need some sort of relaxation and active, as I'm always talking about it and also thinking about it, active rest. Active rest might for you be actually mindless hobbies like watching TV and fucking playing video games. But it, on the other hand, could also just be reading a book, actually recording an episode of your podcast and all those things. It could actually also be something really relaxing for you. It depends on you. It depends on, it really heavily depends on your passions, what you have been doing. Like, I often kind of feel like that these things that you liked as a child, that you like to do as a child, are probably also going to be one of your passions and are probably also going to be one of the things that you really also like to do and therefore are probably going to be relatively relaxing. Because, I mean, I have always been just playing soccer. Like, it's always been a passion of mine, and I do somehow regret that I've just dropped out of the club, the football club that I've been a part of for, like, I don't know, it must have been like 4 or 5 years or something at this point in time. I've been really young, really young, and I kind of really regret that. And this is also one of the reasons why when I'm talking to somebody that is just kind of thinking about, I don't know, not playing soccer anymore, just because, okay, yeah, it totally is a lot of stress, especially when you are in school, and especially when you are having to deal with other things as well, then it's probably not going to be the nicest thing to also additionally deal with. But like, yeah, you know, if you're really talented, if you just really like doing whatever you're doing the sports and playing the sport, then please just don't drop out. Please do it, because chances are not that bad that you also can be a pro athlete. I don't know how this is going to look like in the future, since the majority of the people are actually watching esports and not actual sports. Like, yeah, you know, there's going to be a major shift there, I guess, and there's going to be a very interesting shift as well. But yeah, I do think that this is actually going to be the end of the episode, and I've enjoyed it. And I also hope that you have enjoyed it, and I also really hope that it has been something that really brought some value to you and into your world and to your world. And maybe it's also going to provide some value to other people if you talk about it and if you share the message, and maybe even if you share this episode and or podcast. But yeah, consider subscribing to the podcast and also to the YouTube channel, and I'm going to see you next time, I at least hope. I wish you the best health, of happiness, and also success, and I also hope that you're going to remind yourself and you're going to be remembered, which basically means your legacy, which basically means you're just going to be a nice person, and then you're also going to be remembered as a nice person. Just it's a theoretical thought. In the whole reality, it's not going to work out, I guess. But yeah, 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself are: why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, since a lot of companies started out with solving something that really pissed them off in the first place. But yeah, I'm gonna see you the next time. I at least hope. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, consider subscribing, and I'm gonna see you the next time. And thanks a lot from the bottom of my fucking heart for listening and or watching. I really deeply appreciate that. Like really, really, really. It's so incredible. It really fucking is. I see you.